We go. Hey, it's Juck.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. To start.
And welcome into Juck on Bucks on a Monday morning. Appreciate you all so much for joining me, as I appreciate my man Kris joining us on a Monday like he always does. We missed out on last week's shows. Good morning, brother. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man? Welcome back.
I'm so happy to be home. It's always nice to get away with the family, but my gosh, when you're trying to get something accomplished and you got no bandwidth, it was horrific. It was horrific. So happy to be home, bro. Happy to be home. We got some college football to recap with you guys. I didn't get your picks on Friday, Kris. I was salty because I had another awesome weekend and I was ready to rub it in your face. But yeah, 8-5, bro. 6 winning weeks in a row over here on the official Juck on Bucks picks.
Juck's got it, man. Juck's up every week, man.
So I want to go over, Kris, to start before we get into the Buckeyes, which I'm sure, we haven't talked about the Buckeyes yet. I'm sure you got plenty to say. I always do. I want to go over some of the games over the weekend and the conference races, which are now obviously more exciting than ever because of what is on the line for winning the conference. And a couple of big games on Saturday. The biggest one, I think, of the week for a lot of us was the SEC banger with Texas A&M and LSU. Brian Kelly, Garrett Musmeier's been on fire coming in to College Station. I picked Texas A&M in this game. I was a little nervous because I think Connor Wegman he just makes me nervous. And he was certainly not good. 18 passing attempts for 64 yards. Got himself yanked from the game for Marcel Reed, who we first saw out of Florida, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Marcel Reed going against LSU. It looked like we were watching a Heisman contender, Kris.
I am pleasantly shocked by the success that Mike Elko has had year one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought coming from Duke, obviously ACC, not really recruiting powerhouse and not really asked to swim with the big fish very often. Him at A&M after Jimbo leaving and kind of the way that roster was going to look. I thought for sure there'd be like a 2 or 3 year rebuild. I expected it to look more like Luke Fickell when he first arrived at Wisconsin. And it's been almost the exact opposite. And if you remove that loss they had early in the year, we're talking about probably a top 5 team.
Right.
So
right.
I've been, and they've done it without like stellar quarterback play, which is also weird. But no, I've been really impressed with Elko, and that A&M team. Are you ready to say that they're kind of up for real SEC contender? Like, are they real enough to you?
Absolutely.
Do you think they can beat the Texases, the Bamas of the world?
I think they're right there. I think they may be just a cut below, but I mean they're right there because they're getting better every week.
And again, like doing it without like I know they had pretty decent quarterback play after Wegman got hurt, but majority of the year they haven't really had that good a quarterback play. And that almost makes it even more impressive to me, at least, because like a lot of times you see teams with like really good quarterback play kind of like hide a lot of their other flaws. USC, I mean, shoot, us in 2021, our quarterback play was hiding a ton of other flaws. Shoot, LSU last year, they had a ton of flaws, but the quarterback play kind of covered it up. Ole Miss, same deal. But this team, like, all their flaws are out in the open because their quarterback's not really been elite all year. I mean, they haven't really had elite quarterback performances, and yet they still are winning and kind of winning in really impressive fashion. So I'm really impressed, and I just want to talk about the job that Elko's done, to be honest, Chuck.
Yeah, and I mean to the corny who you going to get argument. This dude was Duke's head coach last year. He came in to Texas A&M, lost 29 players, the entire defense gone, everybody gone. And this is what he's able to do in the SEC year one. Lost game number 1, and since then, he's run the table. And the people in College Station have never been happier. So just to throw that out there. But I absolutely think that game that we were talking about potentially could be, 1 loss Texas and 1 loss Texas A&M is really starting to shape up. I mean, Texas A&M now has South Carolina, New Mexico State, and Auburn. That's their path to get there. So now they're the favorites for that. Like that is now favorite to happen for them to get into that game with one loss. It's incredible. Texas, on the other hand, they go to Vandy, and what an impressive team. Vandy almost does it again. They beat Alabama, of course, snuck into the top 25, and then they take Texas to the wire, 27-24. It's a really fun story, but Texas, similar to the Ohio State situation after the Georgia loss, they come out and put on a pretty lackluster performance as an 18.5-point favorite, but they do get the win, same as Ohio State. And I'm wondering how the Longhorn fans are feeling right now, because I know how the Buckeye fans are feeling.
Yeah, Texas looks really beatable. Their offense is not nearly explosive like the monster that I thought they would be under Sark, especially with the old Quinn Ewers. Weird to say. I don't know what to think of Vandy, because at times Vandy's offense looks absolutely putrid, but other times like they'll string together like 3 or 4 plays. You're like, oh, okay, like there's something there. The Pavia kids, super fun to watch. But Texas, again, they looked like us. Like they lacked juice entirely. Like all the juice was gone. Almost like you're pouting your way to victory. And it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird to watch Texas play, but they look beatable. Like they look beatable, just like Ohio State looks beatable, and almost like mirror images of each other. Like great OCs, made head coaches. You know, the offense is supposed to be kind of what you build this thing on, and the offense on both teams look pretty lackluster.
Yeah, disappointed if I'm a Texas fan for sure. I'm expecting, especially because Vandy can't sneak up on you now, right? That they beat Alabama, so they were going into that full bore knowing who this team was. Let's pull up the SEC standings. By the way, Texas now has, I think, Arkansas, Florida, and Kentucky to get to that Texas A&M game with just one loss. So that's looking like that is going to happen. I mean, these guys are going to be favorites for those 6 games, Texas and A&M. So pretty interesting stuff. But A&M still sits undefeated at the top. You got Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and LSU, all with just one loss. We know that Georgia is going to have to play Tennessee still. They're also playing Ole Miss still. That'll be a playoff game for Ole Miss. They've already got the 2 conference losses. A&M and Texas are going to play. So this thing is very far from being settled still. And the conferences that we thought, which we'll go over soon, were maybe going to come down to the wire and be really exciting, like the Big 12. It's looking like the SEC and the Big 10 might be even more exciting, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. It is wild. And honestly, like I know people like think that the regular season like means less because you can lose multiple games. For me, I think it means more because there's more teams that like have a chance to get in, I guess. And so like overall, it matters for that group of SEC teams with 2 losses. They all have a shot. I think Ole Miss is super dangerous too.
Right. That's another thing. A very, very dangerous team who, if they sneak in, can make some serious noise.
Yeah.
But no, I'm starting to come around to your point of view, which I did not think I would. And what's really making me realize that I'm coming around to your point of view is the ACC race. And we'll head there next. So Pitt beat Syracuse. We didn't get to talk about that one.
Did you watch that game? Did you watch that game live?
I did. I sure did. I watched the whole game live. I was, aside from the McCord stuff, incredibly impressed with the Pitt defense. The way they flew around, the energy they brought. It was 11 dudes fired up, wanting to be there. It was just juice all up, man. It was awesome to watch. By the way, I love those uniforms. One of my favorites. Absolutely beautiful. But it was an impressive defensive performance from them. I don't know how real they are, but they're a scary team with a defense like that for sure.
I mean, I think they're probably the second or third best team in the ACC. I mean, I know they forced 3 pick sixes in the first half alone. I believe the first team in modern football to do that. And of course, it was against the former Ryan Day quarterback, Kyle McCord. They look good, man. They fly, they hit, like everybody's everywhere. Hands on football, really disruptive. The true definition of like offense on defense. Like they win that game if their offense doesn't score a point. They go get it done, man. And it's like, dang, like watching all these teams with this much juice, looking across like, wow, like I wish we could have just a sprinkle of that, but not here to complain about that yet.
Yeah.
No, dude, Pitt's fun to watch. I think Eli Holstein is good enough. And honestly, like they might be a team that like spells issues for Miami because Cam Ward's not exactly the best at taking care of the football. We all know that.
Right.
And what team is the best at taking away the football? Well, if you watch that game, you think, okay, yeah, Pitt, they take the football away and they score with it too.
Yeah. So Miami beats Florida State by 22. And let's get to this race. You got Clemson beat Virginia, but they gave up 31 points. Not particularly great. SMU beats Duke. SMU undefeated still. SMU and Pitt undefeated. SMU beats Duke in overtime. Now, SMU and Pitt are going to play this week. So one of these undefeated guys is getting knocked off. SMU's a 7.5 point favorite. I'm really excited somehow, and this is what's proven it to me. I'm excited for the SMU Pitt game. Two undefeated teams trying to spoil Clemson and Miami. I'm really rooting hard.
Juck, did you say SMU's a 7.5 point favorite?
SMU is a 7.5 point favorite against Pitt.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, dude. Rhett Lashley's boys, they don't mess around, man.
I know they're good. I know they can play. I just didn't expect them to be 7.5 point favorites. Feels like a lot to me.
By the way, one of my favorite young coaches who's done a tremendous job at SMU, Rhett Lashley. If you catch the theme of where I'm going here, lots of potential candidates for coaches. Just saying.
Juck said it. Juck said it. Juck said it.
But I'm really excited for that SMU Pitt game, which, to your point, these are races I did not think I would care at all about. And I'm juiced up for a Southern Methodist and Pittsburgh game in week 10. I'm juiced up about it. Like, seriously, can't wait for it.
It just gives you more big games every season now, I think. But for me, I found that it doesn't take away the juice of the super clashes like the Ohio State Oregon. Like I still get as juiced up for Ohio State Oregon. But also additionally, like now I'm excited for a Pitt SMU game because that's a potential, playoff berth on the rise. Like, and look, I'm going to get juiced about Texas Bama. I'm going to get juiced about Georgia Bama. Super juiced about it. But also I'm going to get excited about, SMU's, about Indiana. Like I was excited about Indiana Washington this week.
Me too.
Because of the 12-team playoff. So,
yeah. So over to the Big 12. Colorado beat Cincinnati. They've got one conference loss to Kansas State, which was just by 3 points. I think they're getting pretty good, which is wild. I didn't think we'd be here. They've got Texas Tech left, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State, all teams that have not been so hot this year. I mean, these guys got a shot to win the Big 12 and make the playoff, which obviously – I clowned Dion so hard for saying that in the offseason. I would really be eating my words if that in fact happened, but a long way to go still. I do think that they're going to be the favorites in every one of those games as I look at them now. Pretty wild, man.
Is he doing a good enough job for him to be a candidate if the Florida job opens up?
Hell no. Hell no. Listen, I want to say, like, maybe football wise, perhaps. I just think there's so much more you're taking on.
Oh, yeah.
A board of trustees to make that decision. You are relinquishing all control because you can't babysit him. You can't tell him what he can and can't do.
Nope.
He's going to go embarrass you. He's going to go piss people off. He's going to make a lot of people happy. And to get a board of trustees at one of these old universities to sign off on that hire where you are essentially signing over the program 100%, I just can't see. I can't see them doing it. But losing football can make some people really desperate. So it's a possibility, I guess. I just can't see it. But man,
once you do it, you're basically just selling out. You're acknowledging, okay, we've tried everything we can. It's time to put all the extra stuff to the side and let him just go be free because we know we can't control him. And we just got to weather the positives and the negative media storms. It's kind of what you're saying.
That is. But when you look at how lazy of a recruiter he is, being in Gainesville, like all of a sudden it works. It's okay now. He can do that in Gainesville. He's got so much talent around him that will travel just to him to go see him. Being in Colorado has been at a detriment. If he was even at If he was at Florida International, I think they'd be as successful as Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, being in Colorado has not been good for his style, which is, I don't want to go out and recruit. I want you to come to me. And it's, by the way, London Merritt went out and visited there. I was not happy.
Dude, he always gets. Remember when Brandon Ennis almost took a visit out there?
Yep. Yeah.
Crazy,
yeah.
man.
Anyway, further in the Big 12, a lot of people really high on Iowa State. Matt Campbell, a very respected coach. The rest of the way, they've got Texas Tech, Kansas, Cincinnati, Utah, and Kansas State. They'll be favored in most of those games. I don't like their chances getting through that gauntlet unless am I misreading Iowa State? I don't think they're that good.
Dude, Matt Campbell will do this every couple of years. Like, they'll have a really hot start. They'll look really good. And then, like, they'll lose 2 or 3 down the stretch, and they'll still be a hot name. And they'll kind of excuse those losses down the stretch because, it's Iowa State. You can't win there. They can't get talent there. It's a hard place to win. They'll drop at least one of those games. To me, they're another one of those glass cannon teams. I wonder if Matt Campbell is also a guy that could be on the move because he feels like, I'm honestly like the ideal Michigan coach. And I think they need to go ahead and move on from Sherrone Moore, but that's neither here nor there. Iowa State's the most fraudulent to me of the top 10 teams. I think they'll drop at least 1, maybe 2. And for the sake of chaos in the Big 12, I hope they do.
Yeah. If I was a Michigan fan and I could swap Sherrone Moore for Matt Campbell, I'd do that yesterday. Without a doubt, if that was on the table, for sure. We're talking about a guy who had the opportunity when Ryan Day was hired at Ohio State to maybe be in consideration for an interview for that job if they had done an open search. And that's how long he's been at a program. Loyalty. We've heard him talk about the Iowa State program. I mean, loyal as hell, making a lot less money than he could somewhere else. And it, a guy who can pop up at a place that gets no talent every once in a while. It's very impressive for sure.
Yeah,
but there is a team. Go ahead.
I was going to say he was considered for some NFL jobs randomly.
Right. Yeah. Very, very well respected guy in the coaching industry for sure. But BYU has 2 ranked wins. They destroyed Kansas State. They beat SMU 18-15. They now have left Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. The best one of those 4 teams I just listed is 3-5 overall. They all suck. BYU's path to undefeated and making it into that conference championship game is really easy. And the way that the Big 12 can get 2 teams into the playoff is if somebody beats them in the conference championship. So BYU goes undefeated in the regular season and loses in the conference championship. You can't leave them out. At one loss that only came in the conference championship. And then the Big 12, which we always thought was going to get 1 guy in, all of a sudden has 2. And that means 1 less SEC or Big 10 team, which I'm kind of rooting for. That's going to be really exciting if that happens.
Dude, BYU is the undefeated team that gets talked about the least. They've already gone through their quote unquote gauntlet of the schedule. So like they've gone through the tough part. They've won the losable games. And if they finish undefeated the regular season, it's like, oh shoot, like this, like they might actually be good. Who would you pick on a neutral site today if it was between Iowa State and BYU, out of curiosity?
I can't answer it honestly because I haven't watched enough Iowa State, though I've watched a couple BYU games and I really like them. So I'm going to say them, but with the caveat that I've only seen highlights of Iowa State. I've not really sat down and watched them, but if
the only full Iowa State game I watched was them versus Iowa when the offense didn't exist in the first half and then it came alive late in the second half to get a comeback win. So
they got some big passing threats now, right? I like Rocco Beck, their quarterback.
Yeah, Rocco.
All right, Kris, let's go to the Big 10. Number 1, Oregon, which is wild to say. They beat Illinois 38-9, and Illinois, a ranked team. This is coming off of their win against Ohio State, and the short notice for Purdue after that. And now they've just steamrolled another ranked team. People really respect Illinois. They stayed in the top 25 even after losing that. And this is not a game that I got to watch at all through my travels on Saturday. It's not on my rewatch list. It is what it is. They did their man. Dylan Gabriel passes Timmy Chang. Do you remember Timmy Chang, or is that before your time?
Before me, big dog.
Bro, there was a time when I remember ESPN would air the Hawaii game after all the games. There was always the Hawaii game. And if you had got your butt kicked betting all day, you could bet that Hawaii game every week at like 2:30, 3 in the morning. And Timmy Chang would come on there and cash your ticket, bro. He would cash those tickets for you. It was awesome. I love Timmy Chang. But nah, man, Dylan Gabriel, wow. Prolific quarterback that beat Ohio State. Number 2 all time. That's nuts.
Dude, he that's a team that's like not slowing down. Like they're building the resume. The juice looks there. Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback than I thought he would be this year. I thought some of the stuff that he was doing over there at Oklahoma was a little gimmicky. I thought some of the stuff they were going to be doing out there at Oregon was going to be gimmicky. And even to start the year, I mean, they led the league in like passes behind the line of scrimmage. Like at the line of scrimmage, like help the completion percentage. But they've since dialed it up, and they're hitting all. I mean, they're spraying it now all parts of the field. And Dylan Gabriel looks like the Big Ten's best quarterback.
Yeah, I was not impressed until the Ohio State game, and now all of a sudden the dude has turned it on.
Like even the week before against Michigan State, he didn't look good.
And
it feels like the win over Ohio State felt like the jolt, the energy, like the confidence boost, like oh yeah, like I belong here, I can do this. Or okay, it's that stretch of the year, it's winning time, let's go win. And they left absolutely zero doubt against Illinois. Like the game was never close. You never felt like Illinois could compete. And I think early in the year, that's a team that Oregon would have struggled with, but not right now. They're firing on all cylinders, Juck.
Yeah. It's a scary team for sure. Penn State, also a scary team. They go up to Wisconsin with a game effort to start, but they end up losing 28-13. Drew Allar gets hurt, and I don't know how hurt he is, but he had some fun words for someone in the band on his way out the door.
Just to get the football back here.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys know or don't know, Kris and I, very big fans of Drew Allar. He's from right over here. We like him a lot and root for him outside of Ohio State games. I loved seeing that out of him, Kris. He's getting some fire and some confidence that he hasn't always had on the field. And
dude, what's been the big thing around Northeast Ohio about that kid? Like, he's just too nice, like too good of a kid. Like, doesn't have a ton of dog in him. Now he'll compete and sink his teeth down and compete, but not really like the trash talker. But the sit the F down, who the F are you from Drew Allar? I'm like, whoa. I'm like, whoa. And obviously, like, I've been around the kid. I met the kid, talked to the kid a little bit. And to see that, I'm like, okay, Drew, I didn't know that was in you. I didn't know you had that. I like seeing it. I hope he's okay, though, above all that.
Yeah, I haven't heard word one on his status for the Ohio State game. I assume, based on the body language after the injury, after he came back out, that he's going to be just fine and he's going to be playing for that one, especially after last year's game where he did not play. You remember that press conference? He got in there and he was just like, I sucked. It looked like he was about to cry. This dude is out for revenge. By the way, his backup, Bo Prabila, played pretty good as well, and also looked like a quarterback that, could give a team fits.
No, Bo's a good player. He's a lot closer to like Trace McSorley, like real mobile. Pretty good arm. Like Bo's a starting caliber quarterback. He's been there for a long time. If it is Bo that goes, it'll probably be Ethan Grunkemeyer as the backup for that game. If it is Bo for good old the Ohio State week. But no, Bo, even if Bo plays, and honestly, it might be a little bit tougher to defend with all the creative stuff that Andy Kotelnicki can do with his legs. And Bo, even if Drew Allar plays against us, Bo's going to play. Like he plays every week no matter what.
Ethan Grunkemeyer, another Ohio kid. They're raiding Ohio for quarterback talent, bro.
Yeah, dude. I love Grunk too, man.
Yeah.
Good kid too. Good kid, competitive kid. Like top 1% in arm talent. Like it's up there with Drew, the way that they could just cannon of an arm. But no, they hoard Ohio players for sure.
Did you hear Will Howard talk about Penn State? Did you hear that comment?
Yeah, man. He's from Pennsylvania. Everybody's looking for revenge. Drew want to go to Ohio State. Will want to go to Penn State.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Would you trade?
Would I?
Yeah.
Selfishly, heck yeah. What? The kid from Medina, the kid that I got to watch in high school? Yeah. And that's just part of because I've met Drew and I've been around, obviously, that football program for a while. I remember watching him.
All right,
So,
let's take that out of it. Let's take that out of it.
Probably not. I like if Will Howard. No, I don't know, Juck. Shoot.
Let's come back to it Friday. We'll come back to it Friday.
Yeah, let me. I think I would take Drew. No, I like the legs of Will, but Will's not even really using the legs. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and really go through it.
The offense with Kolnicki looking a lot more fun. They're creative, they're exciting, and we're going to get into breaking down this Penn State Ohio State matchup. So I don't want to get too much into that now, but it's a lot of fun. The team looks like it's got some juice, and they're coming for Ohio State, bro. They've been down by the Buckeyes' hand for so long. They feel like this is their year to jump up and get them. It's going to be a hell of a game, man. USC gets their second Big Ten win against Rutgers. Michigan beats Sparty 24-17. Really disappointed by Sparty here. Listen to this. Combined, Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards, 22 carries for 42 yards. Davis Warren, 13 for 19 for 123 yards. And somehow Sparty found a way to lose to that.
Yeah, there's literally no way you lose that game if those two go for under 50 yards. Like there's no way, dude.
Ridiculous. But Michigan's got to deal with the Ducks this weekend, and we are all Duckeyes this weekend for sure.
We're all Duckeyes. I like that. You're a Duckeye. I'm a Duckeye. We're all Duckeyes.
Also in the Big Ten, like you mentioned, Indiana, backup quarterback. They take on Washington, who's been played spoiler a couple times this year. They're pretty good. The line was only 6.5. This was supposed to be a close game. They beat them 31-17. Backup quarterback Taven Jackson, just 11 for 19 for 124, just 17 yards on the ground. As a team, they only rushed for 188. I don't know how they managed to score 31 on them. Pretty feeble numbers. Washington did throw a pick six, I think, but Coach Sig keeps rolling, man. They've now got left on the schedule Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. They will be favored in 3 of those for sure. And the story just keeps getting crazier.
Dude, what is it? They haven't been losing for a single second all year.
I did not hear that. Wow.
Yeah,
that's insane.
They have never been down this year, Juck.
That's a Saban stat at this point in the season.
Yeah.
You know?
It is week 10, and they have not been down in a game.
That's bizarre. That is bizarre.
It's insane. It's Indiana.
Yeah.
Dude, Sig's real deal, man. Me and you, I think we're pretty early on. I think like 2 or 3 weeks in, we're like, hey, they've got something that's a little different. It feels a little different than what everybody else has got. I don't know what's going on, but it just is different. And they're proving it every trip. And I want people to have their antennas out. I want people to really be paying attention because they're going to get O'Rourke back next week. They're going to get O'Rourke back next week. So like I'm looking at Indiana like, yeah, like this team feels the part, and I just keep replaying it in my head. What does Sig tell us? Sig, Google me. I win.
Google me. I mean, he's hard as hell, dude. He's so hard. I love it. I love the way the team plays. They look like a crew that's been together forever. And, you know, I guess 12 of those kids came from JMU, so they were together.
Yeah.
And then they kind of blended those 12 and with the core that he retained from Indiana with some transfers. They're awesome. And this game, if Ohio State beats Penn State, is so huge. It's even bigger if Ohio State loses to Penn State. Either way, that game is going to be bananas. But yeah, dude, it's been so much fun. It's added so much to this college football season. Let's look at the Big Ten standings as we sit. And I think that what we've got here is Ohio State, who is going to play still Penn State and Indiana. They control their destiny in the Big Ten. They can get to the Big Ten championship game just by knocking off Penn State and Indiana. If I was to bet it now, I'd say this still ends up in a Ohio State, Oregon championship game. But a lot contingent on that Penn State game, which we'll talk a lot about all week, I'm sure, and get into a little bit here coming up with the Buckeyes' performance. But Ohio State controls what goes on here, and it's just a matter of whether they get it done or not, which to me, Kris, was looking like, as we get into the Buckeyes portion of the show, I expected this point in the season to be watching a team that was just rolling, just steamrolling, like we're seeing Oregon.
Yeah. I thought we would like the team. Like I keep telling you, that's the best way I know how to describe it. Like I thought we would be the team in college football, and we're just a team, and that freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, when you look at, we can get into Nebraska a little bit. When you look at a team that goes out, loses a heartbreaker in a very emotional game. And when you are a contender, no matter where you are, it's not Ohio State, it's not Ohio State fans. When you are a contender and you lose a game, you get picked apart. What went wrong? They had to deal with that for a week. They had a brain trust meeting on the defense. They come out after that 2-week hiatus and play a game with just absolutely no energy. The sidelines looked weak. I talked to some people sitting by those sidelines towards the end of the reports coming back from that really trouble me. They don't look engaged in the game. I mean, it does not feel right. Something feels off. I don't know what it is. Lack of execution, a stunning ineptitude on the offensive line, horrible play calling, like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And it's not the first time, and it's certainly not the first time with the lack of juice and energy. And I am reading comments that I've not seen before. Level-headed people telling me, like, I just can't defend this guy anymore. He gives me nothing. I feel that way. It is so obvious that there is a disconnect between what this staff wants to accomplish and what they're getting out of their players. Veteran players who were chilling on the sidelines almost in a loss to Nebraska. And I personally, you know how I felt about this team. I thought they would be the one juggernaut of college football. And Ryan Day, my stance on him with the changes he's made, ought to be given some grace, a couple of years, because of the changes he made, because they were so difficult. But I feel like when you got the opportunity, when things come together like this, with all these seniors coming back, Ryan Day's handpicked staff, Chip Kelly leaves UCLA as a head coach to become his offensive coordinator. All of this is hanging by a thread, and the scissors are right next door in Happy Valley with a hungry team in the top 3 who have been waiting forever to finally kick in this door and get to where Ohio State had been living. And I'm nervous, man.
I told you before the show, dude, like I'm nervous. I'm nervous because this team is completely lacking juice. And I cannot remember the last time that this team looked hungry and looked like they had a lot of juice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Under Ryan Day, at least. Like it just feels, I know people are going to say, well, who can you get? Like, can you guarantee a better option? This, that, and the third. And my whole thing is like, yeah, but this doesn't feel right at all. Like there's a lack of juice. It feels like there's a lack of on-field leadership a little bit. Yes. I don't know who the vocal leaders on both sides of the ball are. It feels like they almost go into these games expecting to win and kind of try to sleepwalk their way to victory. And I'm okay with seeing that sometimes from teams that had already won natties. This team has not won a natty, Juck. And so seeing them sleepwalk through things is like, oh, well, that's weird. Go ahead.
That's interesting you say that, because as soon as you said that, I thought to 2015, and I feel like you're right. I feel like that is the similar feel to the 2015 attitude.
But like with the 2015 team, at least I could say, oh, well, they won a natty the year before.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like this Ohio State team didn't win a natty last year. In fact, they got embarrassed in a Mizzou game. to end the year. And so for that to happen, and there not to be a hungry, psychotic mindset there at all, it's like, dang. Like, so here we go. Georgia, they didn't win the Natty last year. That Texas game, we saw the psychos, right?
Fire, bro.
Like, we saw the absolute psychos really get it going.
Yeah, we sure did. I mean, for a team bringing in a Nebraska team, yes, they're a blue blood of the sport. They just got beat by 50. They just gave up 250 rushing yards to Indiana. Indiana rushed for 250 yards against them and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns on the ground. That's the team you got coming in. Now, Nebraska played a much better game against Ohio State. They turned the ball over 5 times against Indiana. I'm not trying to take anything away from the opponent. They were much better than they were the week before. But you are rolling with the most celebrated class in the history of the school, the class of 2021.
Correct.
Now, seniors should have been in the NFL. And part of me is feeling like this class might just never have had anything. There's just nothing special about any of those guys. They don't carry on what we value at Ohio State. I don't know, man. You tell me. They make up the core of this team. How do you have that many seniors on this team that should be in the NFL and they can't? Like, at some point, this has got to be on the players too, bro. Like, this has got to be on them as well.
No,
all
it
these
is.
Seniors, and you can't get it up. And you got this coach exasperated. Like, I always point to the coach because the coach is the adult in the room, right? And it's his staff. But man, how disappointing is this crew? My gosh. Would they have been better if half of them left?
I think so, because I'm ready for some fresh blood, man. Like, I know I'm always the guy that's like, be careful what you wish for, but I think it's time for some younger, fresh blood out there, because the messaging's not there with the older guys. The play is not there with the older guys. The development's not been there with the older guys. And additionally, like, these older guys are playing and they're not being rotated off at all. Well, this game they got rotated a little bit. And it's just not there. Like, it's just not there, dog. Like, I'm ready for like a full refresh button. It's like when you have a room that has looked the same for 10 years, paint a wall, put an accent chair in there, like do something. Cause we've seen this 2021 crew not win the big game like Ryan Day since they've been here. I'm ready, Juck. Like, I'm ready and I'm frustrated. And I think, like, so here we go. If you were to talk about who are the best players on this team currently, how many of them in the top 5 are from the 2021 class?
All right, I'll give you my most valuable 4 players on the team. I was just thinking about this last night. I've got Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin, Caleb Downs, and Jeremiah Smith. 3 out of the portal and 1 off the street, out of high school.
And then if I was gonna do a 5th, I would say Simmons. I know he went down, but I think those were the 5 most important, impactful players this year. None of them in what was considered the best Ohio State class ever. None of them. 7
5-stars, for those of you who aren't familiar with that class of 2021. That's ridiculous. 7 5-stars. Insane. 12 top 100 players. Crazy class. Those are the seniors on this team. Bizarre, dude. Bizarre. Not a single of them in our top 5.
It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
It certainly doesn't feel good to me that 4 out of the top 5 guys were transfers.
Yeah.
That one of them is thank you, Brian Hartline, for winning that one for us. JJ's ridiculous. Thank you to the folks who came through on the other end. Like, it's all good, right? But it doesn't feel good for sure. They had a battle of the brains, and I talked about this yesterday, bro. Year 3, you are having a meeting of the minds. Year 3, week 9, with your defensive coordinator, and you are sitting down discussing some real tough stuff about how you're going to get pressure. Almost felt to me like an identity crisis on defense. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're going to bring to the table, and they decided to sit down and try and iron it out and stamp it out. Who are we on defense? year one conversations they're having in year three. It seems like a discombobulated mess. It always has on defense, a push-pull relationship. And I'll give them credit for this, man. They came out and had me jazzed up. They were running twists and stunts on defense. And that energy, that aggression led to what we are always missing with these guys. And that was some juice, some fire. Tyleek was in and Jack was getting fired up. Like, they were wild. And I was like, thank God we're going to see this today. And somehow started with that in my head, watching that, to the way it finished. And we'll get to some of the decisions that I think were absolutely unconscionable from this coaching staff. Let's start with one. You got Will Howard, 13 of 16. How did you think he played? 2 shots. What was your thought on Will?
I think he wasn't in rhythm. Now I know the completion percentage would suggest otherwise, but I thought he put 2 of his best throws of the season together on tape. Like that shot to Carnell, I thought was a really good deep ball. And, my biggest criticism of Will has been the inability to hit guys in stride deep. And then the second one to Jeremiah Smith, who I don't know why they put that kid on Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. Awesome. I love it. But another good ball that Jeremiah caught over the shoulder. So I thought Will played. He had his moments where I was like, okay, I like that. But he also had a couple, especially the second half. I was like kind of disgusted with some of the throws. That interception, Juck, was awful. Like, I don't care. That was a bad interception. And it's almost like, okay, like you're going to make the layups. Yes, Will. I like that you make the layups. That's good because Kyle McCord was missing layups. But also, we'd like you to hit a free throw every now and again. And it's okay to hit a 3 every now and again. And so I also think that Will Howard was a victim of what was pretty bad play calling, I think.
Yes.
Right? I don't know how you feel, but I felt
No, it was Chip's worst game at Ohio State. It was Chip's worst game at Ohio State.
I thought so as well.
To me, it went much deeper than just the calls of the play, but the run pass ratio. You couldn't run the ball. I mean, obviously, you could not run the ball.
Yeah, couldn't run
under
the ball.
3 yards a carry on the day, under 2.5 yards a carry on the day. And you decided that was the day when your quarterback was 13 for 16 to run the ball 31 times, which that ratio is way higher run pass ratio than we've had all year in any game. And we've had several games where we've run the ball really, really well, but you chose this one to try to pound the run. And it almost felt to me like you guys are going to get this or we're going to keep going until you do. That's the way it felt to me. And I kind of like that coaching philosophy in a game that you've got well in hand, to teach your guys a lesson or show them like, hey, this is about toughness. We're going to get this done. We're going to run it down their throats. They know it's coming. We know it's coming. Go execute it. Mm-hmm. You can't do that when you're trying to win a game. It blew my mind, bro. It blew my mind. Obviously, Zen was not good. I had a real issue after seeing Zen's performance in the first half that they came out in the second half and rolled him back out there. His explanation after the game, I'm just going to play it here if anybody hasn't seen it.
Prior to Zen's injury, did you guys ever consider taking him out of the game? It seemed like he was giving up quite a few pressures, some that led to sacks, one that led to a fumble. And then since you did not take him out of the game, what was that thought process there?
I felt like for his first start, he had to play through it. Didn't want to, panic and just pull him out because, it's your first start. So there's some things you're going through and some, whether it's, first time jitters or whatever it might be, you're pressing and you're trying to get your feet underneath you. So we wanted him to play through that and see how that went. We'll see how he is.
Okay. So what he just said there, yes, that's what you want in the first quarter. You don't feel that way for the entire game. You don't play through it. You know who he is. They're pretending like they don't know who this guy is, man. Been there 4 years. That decision, that lack of action, sadly feels right on brand with a staff who seems incapable of adjusting on the fly with anything. We've discussed it all year. After almost every game, when things were apparent in the first quarter to us that the defense needed fixed or something needed adjusted, they couldn't do it till halftime. They got tablets. They're supposed to make it faster. They seem so slow to address anything. And when I watch that performance, it is quite clear to me and everybody else watching that kid was flat out physically incapable of doing what they were asking him to do. And I feel bad for the kid for being put in that position. He's not an Ohio State lineman. He's not a Big Ten starting left tackle. He could not physically do the job. They knew that.
That was the worst left tackle performance I think I've seen since I started watching Ohio State football real seriously. So
It was sad, man.
I can't believe that Ryan Day said he wants him to work through it. I mean, literally, and I hate it. I hate that the kid got hurt, but when they made the switch after he got hurt, the offensive line looked better. Right? Like why
Yes.
Juck, can someone explain to me why we're not just playing our best 5 offensive linemen?
I'll tell you exactly why. They wanted to go the easiest route, and the easiest route was just to stick Zen in there. And what they did by going the easiest route was they wasted 3 weeks from the time the Oregon game ended to Penn State, where they could have been gelling with their new unit to get the best 5 out there. Could have had 3 weeks of prep time. Now they wanted to throw Zen against the wall. It clearly didn't work. Now they've got 6 days to try to gel with their new unit. A very, very big gamble that they took doing that. When I feel as a coach, you got to know your personnel. And if you thought for a second that guy could cut it out there, I question everything about you as a coach. Everything.
What do those practices look like, dude? Like,
that's the thing.
There's no way he was going up against JT, Jack, Kenyatta, and Curry, and they felt like, oh yeah, he's doing a really. If he is, they got to restructure practice, right?
That's
like
a good point too.
If he went out there and looked good against those 4 in practice, it's time to completely restructure everything.
You know what this had me thinking, bro? So I started this show after the Missouri game. And one of the weirdest, most puzzling coaching decisions I've ever seen made by a coaching staff, when they benched Carson Hinsman for the nonsense reasons that they gave, moved the right guard to center and put a swinging gate in at right guard and left it like that the entire game after you lost your quarterback and you had a freshman in there. And I dismissed it as they weren't coaching to win the game. But after this Nebraska game, which was eerily similar, the way they just left him in just to die the whole game, I don't think now that they weren't coaching to win that Missouri game. I think it's just straight up incompetence by the offensive line coaching staff. Like, it's just, I don't know how else to explain that anymore. They were clearly coaching to win. You were watching that and you just let it go on until he got hurt with 4 minutes in the game. Kris, what happened after 4 minutes in the game?
I believe we went down and scored.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing.
Put together probably our best drive of the day, best drive of the half, right? Because the other 2 drives were drives that consisted of the home run ball to kind of bail us out. Like, that was the only drive that was a complete drive through and through, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the ones I think in the first half, this stat was amusing. You had 100 yards on your 2 long balls to Carnell and JJ, and outside of that, you had 97 yards. In the third quarter, you had 4 3-and-outs, I believe, for 24 total yards in the third quarter, the whole quarter.
I hope this inspires the beat to ask some hard questions. I see them starting to do it though, Juck. Like they're starting to kind of like shift a little bit on Ryan Day. Like, hold up, man, we've been defending you.
Yeah, this is what. Yeah, what happens
isn't what we thought it was going to be.
No, but this is. I feel like they are feeling what I'm feeling, which is the shift in the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel the fan base start to shift, like, wow, this guy's teetering on the brink of losing the fan base. And I feel like that's where we're at. I feel like there are a lot of people, very normal Ohio State fans, that are just teetering on the brink, who have defended Ryan Day. But you're looking at a team that's got it all. And we've seen what machine Ohio State teams look like. We all have. This team resembles none of those teams. None of it. They have none of the characteristics. And I just feel like the whole fan base is teetering on the brink of jumping off and being like, all right, man,
this dude needs to win a national championship or I'm the hell out of here. Like I am not going to be invested in this team when they can't even play with fire in Ohio football identity, which is strong trench play and tough football players, what we all grown up on. They look nothing like what I want to be proud of. Like nothing. They don't look like that. They don't give those vibes. And at some point, it's all on you, man. I'm sick of the excuses. This is your program. These are your players. These are your recruits you handpicked, your coaching staff. You've rebooted on defense. And as far as I'm concerned, you've rebooted on offense when you made Chip the offensive coordinator. You only get one reboot with your coordinators before you're the hell out of there next.
Yeah, man. And you know what makes this feel worse. And I don't want to just beat on this coaching staff, but it's just venting. When's the next time we're going to have a roster like this, Juck?
Dude, for the odds of a roster to come together like this, it's astronomical odds to get this to happen.
Yeah.
With all these dudes that should have gone to the NFL, astronomical odds. And that's the thing, is not only if you lose, and let's just say if we're looking back thinking about this year, well, they lost the national championship and it was a heartbreaker, or, the game before the national championship. But we are now in week 10 looking at an elimination game potentially at Penn State. Like, we're not even close to the goal here. And it doesn't even feel like a team that wants it. It feels like we want it more than them.
I am horrified what the offensive line is going to look like next year. Like, I am terrified, dude. I'm just terrified. And you know what? You know what the most Ohio State thing would be this year, Juck, is for them to turn it around and win the Natty. That'd be just the most Ohio State thing ever. Yes. And then have everything fall off.
I'm probably going to rock with that tomorrow. So today, it's Overreaction Monday. I'm going to get this all out, and I'm moving on to Penn State tomorrow because we've got a game for all the marbles. And this becomes, to me, this just feels like a playoff game.
No, it feels like this is a playoff game. And losing to James Franklin with this team, and then it becomes like you lost to J.J. McCarthy, who wanted to come to Ohio State. Then you lost to Drew Allar, who also wanted to come to Ohio State. With this roster, it'd just be a bad deal.
Can we just say, bro, that if that happens, JJ and then Drew, like, I feel like Ryan Day gets owned on so many things, bro. He just you owned it. I mean, just so many L's. Everywhere he looks, the guy takes L's. That's another one, if that happens. It's sad.
And Julian Fleming better not catch a single pass against us, dude. I don't care. I don't care.
We talk about recruiting a lot when it's that time of year, and we don't talk about it much this time of year.
Yeah.
But the ineptitude on the recruiting trail, and something that's not really being pointed out, but you and I have been talking about it for years, the lack of straight up numbers in the recruiting classes. If you look at the classes that Georgia and Bama put together, they're taking 2 more offensive linemen each cycle, which means 10 extra offensive linemen on the damn team to choose from. You take more shots, right? You need to take more shots. And when you look at this, what they got in the cycle here in the offensive line room, you got George Fitzpatrick. This guy obviously is like a Zen Michalski-ish player. They missed on him as well. Then you got Ian Moore, who's a younger dude. I mean, after that, the Armstrong twins, they're very young. Like, there's just so many gaping holes. Like, there should be several of guys to pick from battling for this position. But you know what I thought they should have done from the beginning, Kris?
What?
When they decided that they were going to put Tegra at right guard, Ryan Day was asked, "Are you still training him at tackle?" And he said, "No, we're not going to do that because we don't want him to be good at both. We want him to be great at one." And that's a philosophy I love. But I came on here and I said the next day, it makes a whole lot of sense if you didn't have a lot of interior depth and no tackle depth, because Tegra, to me, looks like your best option on the outside, your perfect number 3 guy. So they worked with him at guard. To me, that was a gamble. You took a gamble. It was a luxury gamble. And
I'm still here, Juck. Camera just turned off. My bad.
No problem, bro. So yeah, they took a luxury gamble, and now they have lost that gamble, because Tegra, I think, would be a really good tackle if he had an opportunity. Now they're going to move Donovan. Donovan's a shorter limbed guy. I think that's what they're going to do. Do you think that's what they're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they did at the end of that game. So I would expect them to do that, I think.
Mm-hmm. How do you expect that to go with Donovan out there?
It worries me because his first taste of action is going to be against Abdul Carter. So I think if you had the 3 weeks that you should have had to establish a tackle out there, I would have felt a lot better about it. But now that it's on short notice and your toughest challenge of the season, the toughest challenge on paper the Ohio State season is on Saturday when it comes to tackle versus edge matchup. I mean, that's the only thing that kind of worries me. But he's athletic enough, right? He's an athlete. He was a 5-star cat. I thought he did a good job on the inside, but it's a different beast moving outside. It's just different. So in terms of concern level, 5 being I'm absolutely terrified, 1 being no concern at all, I'm probably about a 3.5.
Yeah, I'd say I'm right in line with you. But I still think he can do enough that the Buckeyes can win this game. And
yeah, me too.
I don't want to make it sound like I think this is doom and gloom for the season. I don't. I got to see this first. But if they can go and beat Penn State with this patchwork offensive line, depending on how it looks, that's going to be my confidence level. You know what I mean? If they can perform against that defensive front, which is really, really good, then I like their odds. They're not going to be as good as they were before for me, but anyway. Did you see our guy James Franklin came out and gave a statement after Wisconsin, Drew?
I did. Do you have it?
I got it.
I'd like to say is
Let's
I want
go.
to apologize. I didn't do a great job of handling Wednesday. Difficult situation. And I got to own that I did not do a good job of that. So I understand you guys got a job to do. You got to ask those questions, and I respect that. The university put out a statement, and the reality is, I think there's not a whole lot more I can say.
And there you go, which is basically all he had to say in the first place was, there's not a whole lot I can say. Sorry, guys. I know you're doing your job and you have to ask, even though my little dweeb SID told you not to. It's your job to ask, so you have to. Instead, he chose to be a petulant child. And for everybody who disagreed with me for my comments on it, there James is apologizing for his behavior. Juck won, James none. So there you go.
Let's go. Juck is up on James. Holy smokes.
That dude, man, what a child. Anyway, I just had to point that out because I got in a lot of arguments about that. Here's the thing, and this is the crux of my whole argument with this is we go around, guys like you, guys like me, and we bang on these beat reporters for not doing their job, not asking the tough questions. And then you got a couple who are, right, asking serious questions that the public want to ask. Keep in mind, if you're a fan of Penn State and you get a whiff of sexual impropriety around the program, you're probably more so than most, a little more oh, whoa. You know what I mean? They've been through this in the very worst way. And you're damn right. It's their responsibility to ask the coach directly, whether somebody said to me, well, they should do what they're told. You can't tell the media what to ask. That's not how this works.
They don't work for the university.
I mean, I got in so many arguments over this. I really got flustered by that, bro. Really, really flustered. But anyway, I was happy to see him come out and apologize. So all is forgiven on my end for acting like a petulant child. But no, those reporters did their job. They did a good job. And in a world of shit, which is the beat reporters that cover college football, those are good ones. So kudos to them. And kudos to Dylan Davis. If you had one question for Tuesday's press conference to Ryan Day, what area would you go? What do you think?
I'm definitely drilling the offensive line thing. I have to know more. That's probably where I'll start.
Yeah.
Where would you start?
I just want to know, did they at any point consider anybody else aside from Zen after the Oregon game and before the Nebraska game? Did they consider anybody else? Did they do anything different in practice? Did they try anything else? Or did they see him in the Oregon game, which everybody patted him on the back and said, good job, Zen, you came in a tough spot, and he did. But, I watched the film. I keyed in on him. He was not good in that Oregon game. It wasn't this bad, but it wasn't good by any means. There was a lot of plays that were indicators in that Oregon game for what we saw against Nebraska. I didn't want to come out and crap all over the dude all week, right? Because he was starting and, I had my fingers crossed, but I don't have the privilege of seeing what those coaches see every day for 4 years out of the guy. And I want to know from Ryan Day, did you consider anybody else, or was that just it? You were just going to go with Zen regardless? That would be my first question.
And also,
and
I don't know if people really ask this kind of question, but I'm curious how Luke Montgomery, went from being considered the backup left and right tackle last year to now being a backup guard. Zero consideration.
Center before yesterday, and then guard, and then they throw a guard. Chris, none of it makes sense.
And where's Hinsman too? Does Hinsman just not good enough anymore after starting all last year?
Fallen off the face of the earth. But what does that say about last year that you had this guy as a starting center? He can't crack your 3 deep.
Is he still on punishment? Is it from that podcast appearance?
Well, no, he's not on punishment for that. But when he did get sick with the hand, foot, and mouth that went through, I did see he lost a hell of a lot of weight, man. It really hit him. He got really skinny. But I don't think it has anything to do with that. What really confuses me is you had Tegra coming out for 2 series at right guard, and you brought in Austin Searveld during the game. So if you've got to replace the left guard, which Searveld has started 2 games at left guard this year, why didn't you put Searveld in? You put Luke Montgomery in, who's been repping at center. I'm all for Luke getting a shot. I like Luke getting a shot, but one, you're trying to win the game, right? The game was in flux, and just none of it makes sense. There is no logic, and I hate to say it, but it's totally on brand for everything I've ever seen in an interview with Justin Fry. I don't know him personally, but he just does not seem like a great coach to me. He just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. Obviously, the recruiting sucks.
Hard to argue. That.
Yeah. All right, my man. I appreciate you so much. Have yourself a wonderful show today. Glad to be back home. I'll catch you on Friday.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep. I'll talk to you, Juck.
Later, bud. And there's our guy, Kris. And I haven't even looked at your comments yet. I don't know if I will, to be honest. I know I went off on one, and some of you guys get mad at me when I go off on one, but I'm a reactionary guy. It's only Monday. Tuesday, everything's going to be great. We're going to be locked in on Penn State, and we're going to go. We're going to win this game. I think we are. It's been a rough one, man. Whoa, we got some super chats to get to. Brody Smith. Brody, $4.99. Thank you so much, buddy. Brody says, predicting it now, the Buckeyes do what Georgia did when they went to Texas. Reminder that they still them dudes. That would be absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility, right? I don't feel that we've seen anything that would indicate that to us as of yet, but we hadn't seen that out of Georgia at that point in the season. We had not seen that out of Georgia all season until they went to Texas. And all of a sudden, Kirby got them talking about intent. They came to eat, and they were ready to go. So what's the difference? Kirby's smart. I'm kidding. Yes, they absolutely could. I hope they do. Chocolate skip chip scoochie hoochie. Thanks, buddy. It looked like last year's offense. Seems like they knew our O-line wasn't going to hold up. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Jacob Evans, thank you, bro, for the 2. Jacob says, in the Ryan Day era, Nebraska is a matchup game. Now, I want you guys to listen to this because Dylan, Bill Landis, both were in the room. Both took this to mean he was referring to Nebraska as a matchup game. Some people have since come out and said, I think what he was saying was just, for instance, when we get into matchup games, and not specifically talking about Nebraska. So you listen to it and you be the judge. Let me see if I got this to pull this up. Was Ryan Day calling the Nebraska game a matchup game, or was he referring to a different game as a matchup game? I hope I clicked the right one here.
Score, kind of put the game in your control. It didn't happen. I mean, everything was going against you. What are you thinking at that point?
No, I just, what do we got to do to get going? And then, we got to find a way to win the game in the fourth quarter. And that feeling that you're talking about right there is where, when we find ourselves in these matchup games, it's almost like the first time you're in that feeling. Okay, like, how do we got to go do this? Well, we got to get the guys together, figure out how we're going to go win the game, and then go do it. And, part of it is for the coaches to put the players in the right situation to be successful. But part of it is the players to go win the game. And it's our job as coaches to make sure we give them the right environment to go take over the game. And I thought we did that today on defense.
All right, folks.
All right, guys, what do you think? What's the verdict? Was he talking about Nebraska? Was he just using that, for instance, when we get into matchup games, this is what it feels like at the end. So I think maybe the point was, maybe it's good to get these reps in a situation at the end of the game where you got to win it for those matchup games. I don't know. I do know if it is the second, if he wasn't referring to Nebraska as a matchup game, he did a poor job of explaining what he was trying to get across. Thomas Ridley, render unto football things, and to God, those things of God. Feeding cake and ice cream to pit bulls is bad. Red meat only. Stop churching. Thank you, Thomas. I've got no clue what any of that means, but I appreciate the $5 super chat, and I appreciate you watching, brother. Robert Rogers, thank you for the $5, buddy. Guys, honestly, we need to get our guys up to play. We lack fire because we are being too conservative. Play some key Glock. Let's go in game and watch. Play some key Glock. Let's go in game and watch. That's what I was saying, bro. I was saying that same thing. But I do think you're right. When you are conservative, your guys lack fire. We saw the defense get aggressive early on in the game, and Ty and Jack, like they were going wild, man. They were having a great time. And it wasn't perfect. They gave up some chunk plays. I'll accept those anytime when you're being aggressive, particularly in the first half of the game. And it was good. It was fun to watch. I liked it. I was happy that they at least did something coming out of the meeting that they had earlier in the bye. It was the Wednesday after the Oregon game. They had a meeting with the Brain Trust, Larry, Ryan Day, all the defensive coaches, and Jim Knowles, what are we going to do, guys? How are we going to get some more pressure? And this is what they decided on, what we saw, at least we saw some of it on Saturday. And I thought, for the most part, to start, it was good. It was different. It was aggressive. And the whole part of it was, it also brought out what I've been yearning to see out of these guys, some emotion and some fire. Thomas Ridley, no championship pedigree on the coaching staff. Hard to argue that. But, you did hire a coach who had no head coaching experience. And, we can debate that, if that was the right thing to do, if he ever loses his job. And I don't know if that'll happen or not. I mean, of course, he's not going to be here forever, but you know what I mean. Troy thinks Jim Knowles is very questionable too. There's no doubt. The mystique that Knowles lived off of for a little while is the defensive genius behind the curtain, just waiting to tweak things just right, and then it's all going to just be amazing. It's been gone for quite a while. What's up, Fisherman? How we doing, brother? JR says, y'all got to chill on these players having faith and praying. It's weird. I'm guessing he's talking that the chat was roasting these guys for praying. And I think that it is a really good thing, for sure. I like it. There are things that can spread in a locker room. And of all the things that could spread in a locker room and take hold, I certainly like that it's that. You know what I mean? I've been in some nasty locker rooms. Dave said, I just don't think we're I just don't think we have a recruiting issue on the offensive line. Plenty of offensive lines are playing better with less talent. Now, the second part is true. Plenty of offensive lines are playing better with less talent. But I think there also is a recruiting issue on the offensive line as well. Both things can be true, and I think both are. Definitely not recruiting up to snuff per the rest of the team, even with adjusted expectations, because offensive linemen are harder to recruit out of state. There are just fewer of them by numbers. It's just a numbers game. It's tougher. So you always give the offensive line coaching staff a little bit more grace. It's not going to look like a Brian Hartline room. Yet still, when we went over, I covered the recruiting, pretty extensively. It's miss after 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 miss. It was one of the worst cycles I've ever seen of offensive line recruiting, as far as, and it goes to everything, lack of offers, blah, blah, blah. Dave says, I'm channeling a lot of the fan base's frustration. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I come on here sometimes, and I was talking to my brother yesterday, and I said, I don't know what to do. Should I tone this down? And he said, no, be yourself, be authentic. Part of me wanted to tone this down and be like, let's be positive, guys. We got Penn State, and I'll get there, but I just got to be myself here. I'm nervous. I'm nervous they're going to blow this opportunity that they've been given. That is a tremendous opportunity when you've got all these things that have come together for them. The luck in the transfer portal. The best player on the team is Caleb Downs, right? Maybe it's JJ. Either way, Caleb Downs is the best defensive player. Just the sheer luck that he was in the portal, that you were able to get him on your team. He is an eraser. He has saved them several times already, and he will continue to. What you did to get those seniors to come back, which now, I mean, I say maybe it's not a good thing when I'm angry that you got them all back. Of course it is. They're all great players. They're all great Buckeyes. They've not won anything, and I expect to see more leadership from them. And I'm sure that their coaches do too. I expect to see more fire and more juice from them. But part of me was, should I tone this down or should I just let it rip? I'll tone it down tomorrow. I'm just letting it rip, man. I'm just not ready to move on because I'm scared, and I really want this. This year. I've thought that this team was going to be everything. I put myself out there, made a real jerk of myself. If this team doesn't come through, boy, people got a lot of receipts on me. That's for sure. But you know how it goes, Yeah, Luke Montgomery was a very highly rated player, top 100 player for sure. No, he's second year. I mean, that's not uncommon to not be ready in your second year if you're not super big. And he was getting pushed around in spring. Remember, in spring, he was leading for the right guard battle for 11 out of the 12 practices in spring. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get to the spring game, which is practice number 12 of the spring, and no Montgomery. It's all of a sudden Tegra and Carson Hinsman fighting at right guard. Where'd Luke go? Luke's just behind these two guys. Wait a minute. And this was the start of the confusing things this year. He was just in the lead for 11 of the 12 practices, and now he's third on the depth chart. What happened in one day? I don't get it. But so it goes. Kyle is over Justin Fry, tired of the same stuff on offensive line every year. Tom says, where are the Armstrong twins? If they have ass and willing to fight, put them in. Are we not developing? They're a little young to put that on them yet. But I can tell you physically, they look a hell of a lot better than they did in high school. And the bigger one, the one that's going to be the tackle, Deontay or Devontae, their names are identical. They're identical twins, but one of them is taller and he's going to be a tackle. One of them is going to be an interior guy. The one that's going to be a tackle, I think, is going to start next year, but definitely no, they're not ready. Sage, Ohio Thank you, buddy. Sage says, I'll be screaming all game for the Buckeyes to win, but if we play like last week, it will be embarrassing. So he's going to the game at Happy Valley. Michigan fan here. Oh, never mind. Who cares? Just kidding, Tim. Tim says, I think you're all overreacting to the Nebraska game. Your team was a 25-point favorite, and you weren't getting up for them. I don't know. I fail to see how you could not get up in this situation after the crap you got for losing the game in Oregon, which you probably feel inside, right? As a unit, like, we don't deserve this. We don't deserve to get crap for losing by one. Let's go out there and show them who we are, right? Like, you would think that's kind of the attitude. And no, the Nebraska team just got steamrolled. Like, there's just no excuse. There's no excuse to look like that. And, you can play a game where you have a bunch of turnovers and the score is closer than it should be. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was just mano a mano, Nebraska, Ohio State, and it was a stalemate. It was a stalemate, and the Bucks got it done in the end, which is the most important thing. They survived and advanced. And in college football, you got a different team every week. The best teams are the most consistent week to week, unless they consistently suck week to week. The best good teams. But next week at Penn State, it's very possible that we could see a different team. We saw a terrible coaching performance yesterday. We saw Saturday, terrible play calling. It was just really, really bad. The run-pass ratio was just baffling to me. Absolutely baffling. Some weird decisions, but it's all these weird decisions that are starting to pile up that are making me wonder if the right people are in the right spots. Ryan Day always talks about having the right people in the right seats. He's very confident that he has the right people in the right seats. He's told us 20 times he got the right people in the right seats. I'm starting to question some of those people in those seats. So let's see it. It's a show me deal, buddy. You've got to show me now. I've given this staff and this team the benefit of the doubt and gone to bat for them and everything else. I am now at the you got to show me part, and that's just what it's going to be from here on out. I mean, Andrew says Stud was a better coach than Fry. I don't know. The Duck Knight says, I don't think people realize if Day leaves, so will a bunch of players. Duck, you are 100% correct. Do you know how many people left Texas A&M when Jimbo got fired? 29 players. 29 players. They made the right hire in Mike Elko, and they are now 7-1, undefeated and leading the SEC. They went out and got 7 secondary players out of the portal, their entire secondary, pretty much, except for defensive line. They had a couple defensive linemen. And they got a couple of key pieces to stay. Chase Basantis, an offensive lineman that we wanted. You get the right guy, that's all that matters. And who was the right guy in that scenario for the who you're going to get crowd? The right guy was the head coach at Duke. The right guy for Indiana was the head coach at James Madison. You don't pick a head coach by saying, well, let's see, who are the 5 best coaches? Who can we get to come here? No. You look at the best up-and-coming coaches, and well, they're out there, man. I could think of a couple right off the top of my mind. It would be very interesting to interview. But the problem is, if I were to tell you their names, you would laugh at me. Just like last year, you would have laughed at me if I told you the coach at James Madison's available. The coach at Duke is available. You'd have laughed. You'd call me an idiot, right? They're the 2 best new hires in college football that took terrible teams, and now they're potentially going to the playoffs. But yes, people will leave if Ryan Day leaves, for sure. And at Ohio State, they'll be lining up at the door for the right coach. Keep in mind, Bama also lost 40 players when Saban left. And they have the number 1 recruiting class and still have the number 1 talent composite when you factor in transfers and everything else. Number 1. So that's with all the players leaving. And now they've got the number 1 class per on 3. Ohio State's got it for 24/7. So it was an absolute non-factor other than You switched out some great players that left for some coming in. That's it. This is not something that is like it was before, where it takes 3 years to get your roster back in order. This is a lickety-split process for the right guy if you got money. And you can see exactly how it worked with Texas A&M. When you got money, they equipped Mike Elko with the funds he needed, and he got the right guys. And that's what we're looking at. All of a sudden, Texas A&M is a real player in the SEC and looks to be set up like that for years to come. Again, the head coach at Duke. This is Ryan Day's 6th year. 6 years. I saw somebody tell me yesterday in the comments, he needs to have some time to learn how to be a head coach. Remember, he's not been a head coach before. No, you're 6 years. You're a veteran now. It is show me time for Ryan Day. Brandingo says, Fry was the only coach who didn't get a good review. I think Day cut him some slack because they're buds. He'll pull the trigger end of season if this doesn't change. You know, I think you're right, for sure. But, oh, yeah, I bet you're having a good time. I think you're right. But it's also like when you're just using scapegoats, like, you know, doesn't firing assistants sometimes feel like, I don't want to do this, buddy, but they're going to can me if I don't. You got to go. Like, do you really understand what's going on? Do you really understand what the problem is? Because if you don't understand what the problem is, then the guy you're going to go get, like this brain trust here between Chip Kelly, Justin Fry, and Ryan Day was this trifecta. They've all known each other. They all know what they're doing together. It's a bummer, dude. It's just a bummer. Disdain Rogue says we can only defend him for so long and nobody is above the university at the end of the day. Man, that's a fact. So, all right, guys. I'm going to work. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me and Kris. I'm going to watch the All-22 film today, probably point out a couple of things from that game against Nebraska, and then onward and upward we move as we luckily don't have to wait at all to see what that performance meant. We get to go straight into a big game, which is both bad and good. We would like some more time to prepare that offensive line. Unfortunately, the coaching staff passed on that time. They could have had 3 weeks from Oregon to Penn State. They didn't take it. They rolled the dice. They lost. And now they got 6 days to get ready with a new offensive line to head into Penn State and take on Abdul Carter. It's going to be something. I can't wait for it. I wish we had it tomorrow, but we don't. We have another Juck on Bucks, and I will see you guys then. Juck on Bucks out.